The worst part of addiction is not the craving for the drug. It's the craving for relief from your own mind. Unknown. There is a question that quietly echoes in the minds of many who have encountered fentanyl, whether directly or through the haunting stories of others. Why does fentanyl feel so good? It's not just a chemical curiosity. It's a cry for understanding. It's not only asked by those who have felt its rush course through their veins, but also by families left behind, by healthcare workers in emergency rooms, and by friends who never saw it coming. It's not a question rooted in judgment. It's rooted in grief, in mystery, in a yearning to make sense of something so powerful, so alluring, and ultimately, so dangerous. To answer that question truthfully, we must walk a winding path through the brain, through pain, through the soul's longing for peace. We must talk not just about fentanyl as a drug, but about what it awakens in the human body and what it numbs in the human spirit. Because fentanyl doesn't just feel good because it's strong. It feels good because something deep inside us is broken. And fentanyl, for a fleeting moment, seems to put that brokenness back together. Scientifically speaking, fentanyl is a synthetic opioid that is up to 100 times more potent than morphine. That number, 100, is not abstract. It means that a dose so small you can't even see it could be the difference between euphoria and death. But the danger is also what fuels the temptation. Fentanyl binds to the brain's mu-opioid receptors with an unmatched intensity. These receptors are responsible for regulating pain and pleasure. When fentanyl hits, it's like a tidal wave crashing into those receptors. The pain disappears, and in its place, a powerful sense of relief, warmth, and euphoria emerges. But let's slow down. Let's not treat this like a sterile science lecture. Let's talk about why those feelings, warmth, relief, euphoria, feel like a miracle to someone who has felt cold for years. Because fentanyl doesn't just eliminate physical pain, it numbs emotional suffering. It silences the anxiety that never stops humming in the background. It quiets the voice of trauma that shouts in the silence of night. It dissolves loneliness, if only for a moment. To someone who has carried invisible wounds, fentanyl can feel like being cradled by something divine. That's why it feels so good. It doesn't just get you high. It gives you what your nervous system has been screaming for: peace. In the brain, fentanyl floods the reward circuitry with dopamine. Dopamine is often misunderstood. It's not the molecule of happiness, it's the molecule of anticipation, of desire, of motivation. It's what drives you toward things that feel good. When fentanyl triggers a dopamine flood, the brain doesn't just feel joy, it records the experience as vitally important. It creates a memory loop that says, do that again, and again, and again. But each time, the baseline shifts. What once brought euphoria now brings normalcy. And what once brought normalcy now brings withdrawal. That's how the trap is set. What's even more haunting is how fast it works. Fentanyl, especially when smoked or injected, reaches the brain in seconds. Within moments, pain is replaced by pleasure. Despair is replaced by detachment. The mind goes from chaos to quiet. That speed is part of its seduction. In a world where relief is hard to come by, fentanyl offers instant escape. It doesn't ask questions. It doesn't require vulnerability. It simply works. Until it doesn't. But the appeal goes deeper than chemistry. It touches something profoundly human. You see, all of us, whether we've touched opioids or not, know what it feels like to want out of our own heads. We know what it means to ache for relief. Fentanyl feels so good because it mimics what we're all seeking in some way: safety, silence, surrender. It provides a counterfeit version of what we're spiritually built to crave: a feeling of being whole, of being held, of being at peace. This is where neuroscience and spirituality begin to overlap. There's a reason why many who recover from opioid addiction speak not just of quitting a drug, but of finding God or rediscovering purpose. Because the relief that fentanyl brings is a pale imitation of the deeper, longer-lasting peace that comes from healing trauma, building connection, and finding meaning. But that process is slow. It's painful. It requires staying present with the very pain that fentanyl promises to erase. That's why the drug is so seductive. It shortcuts the process. It gives the illusion of healing without the work. But illusions come with a price. The very receptors that fentanyl stimulates so powerfully begin to adapt. Tolerance builds. The brain, in its brilliance, tries to protect itself. It reduces the number of opioid receptors or makes them less responsive. What used to feel like pleasure now feels like necessity. The person isn't using to get high, they're using to feel normal. They're using to avoid the crushing weight of withdrawal. And withdrawal isn't just physical, it's emotional, psychological, spiritual. It's the return of everything the drug took away and more. The anxiety, the shame, the depression, the memories. It all comes flooding back. And yet, despite this, people still chase that feeling. Because fentanyl doesn't just feel good, it feels necessary. And that's the real heartbreak. It's not just that people want the high. It's that they can't imagine life without it. Fentanyl becomes the only reliable friend, the only therapist that doesn't talk back, the only thing that understands. You see, for many, fentanyl is not the beginning of a problem. It's the solution to an older one. Childhood trauma, untreated mental illness, chronic pain, poverty, social isolation. These are not footnotes in the story of addiction. They are the prologue. And fentanyl, cheap, potent, available, enters the scene like a savior. At first, but it never stays that way. The same properties that make fentanyl feel so good are what make it so deadly. Its potency means the difference between relief and overdose is measured in micrograms. The more you chase the high, the narrower the path becomes, and the body, trying to survive, becomes more vulnerable. Respiratory depression. The slowing of breath is how fentanyl kills. Not violently, not loudly, just quietly, peacefully, almost. And that, too, is part of the tragedy. It gives the feeling of peace, and then takes your last breath. So why does fentanyl feel so good? Because it hijacks the very systems that are meant to protect us, to bring us pleasure, to soothe our suffering. It gives the nervous system what it craves, while stealing what it needs to thrive. It creates a sense of emotional safety while physically putting the body in danger. It mimics love, warmth, serenity, but offers no real connection, no real future. And yet, understanding this isn't about blaming the person who uses. It's about compassion. It's about asking a deeper question, not just why does fentanyl feel good, but why is feeling good so rare for some people? Why is peace such a foreign experience that people would risk death to taste it? This is not just about pharmacology. It's about pain, societal pain, psychological pain, existential pain. And fentanyl has become a symbol of that pain, a mirror reflecting back to us the parts of ourselves and our culture we have ignored. But there is hope in this story, not just because people recover, although they do, not just because treatment exists, although it does, but because the very brain that adapts to fentanyl can also heal. The same receptors that become desensitized can regain sensitivity. The same body that craves numbness can learn to feel again. It's not easy. It's not quick, but it's possible. Recovery doesn't feel like fentanyl. It doesn't come in waves of euphoria. It comes in moments tiny, hard-won moments of clarity, connection, and calm. It comes through support, through therapy, through community, through spiritual awakening. Sometimes, through remembering what it means to be human again. To hurt, yes, but also to hope. It starts quietly, not with fireworks or thunder, but with silence. The first step toward healing from fentanyl isn't a dramatic declaration. It's often a whisper, a moment of awareness that says, "This isn't working anymore." That moment is sacred. It marks the beginning of something that fentanyl can never give real peace. And that peace, unlike the chemical calm of opioids, has roots. It can grow, but only if the soil is made of honesty, humility, and support. You see, part of why fentanyl feels so good is because it offers control in a life that feels uncontrollable. When trauma leaves you in chaos, fentanyl creates artificial order. When your emotions are too big, too heavy, it shrinks them down to something manageable. When the world feels unsafe, fentanyl builds a temporary wall between you and everything that hurts. But the wall, eventually, becomes a cage. And inside that cage, you lose the ability to feel joy that isn't chemically constructed. This is the paradox of fentanyl. It gives you a sense of power. While slowly stealing your power away, it gives you the illusion of safety, while putting your life at greater risk. It pretends to be the solution, while deepening the wound it promised to heal. But the human spirit is more resilient than we give it credit for. Even after months, years, decades of opioid dependence, there's still something inside a person that can be reached, a spark of dignity, a memory of what life felt like before everything went numb. The road to recovery isn't about chasing a high, it's about reclaiming yourself, piece by piece. In treatment, we often see the light return to people's eyes not because they've found a substitute for fentanyl, but because they've found something more powerful than any drug connection. Connection to others, to their story, to a purpose. The brain begins to heal when the body is safe, but the soul begins to heal when it feels seen. Fentanyl tricks the brain into believing everything is okay. But healing invites the truth, even when the truth is painful. It means sitting with feelings that used to be unbearable. It means waking up from the dream of euphoria and walking through the fog of withdrawal. It means relearning how to be bored without using, how to be anxious without escaping, how to be alive without artificial comfort. That process is hard. It's messy, but it's also sacred, because for every moment that fentanyl numbed, recovery restores a moment that's real. So why did it feel so good? Because it replaced feelings we thought we'd never have again. because it offered us warmth when everything felt cold, because it told us, you don't have to feel this pain. But over time, we learn that feeling pain isn't the enemy. Avoiding it is. When we avoid pain, we avoid growth. We avoid depth. We avoid healing. The brain is remarkable in its ability to rewire. Through neuroplasticity, it adapts not just to drugs, but also to love, to mindfulness, to learning, to community. Every moment spent in real connection is a moment the brain is reminded of its original design to find pleasure not in escape, but in relationship, not in isolation, but in belonging. Spiritually, recovery is about remembering who you are. Beneath the cravings, beneath the withdrawals, beneath the shame, is a person who still matters. Fentanyl may feel like it erases the pain, but it never erases your worth. It just buries it. And part of the healing journey is digging through the debris trauma, regret, loneliness to find that truth again. And when people do, something changes. They begin to feel again. At first, it's overwhelming. Tears come, anger rises, sadness floods in. But then, something else returns joy. Not the synthetic joy of dopamine spikes, but the kind that comes from laughter with a friend, from walking outside and feeling the sun, from holding someone's hand and not feeling the need to let go. These small moments become milestones. They are signs that the brain and the heart are remembering how to live. There's no shortcut to this process. That's what makes it so different from fentanyl. Fentanyl is immediate. Healing is gradual. Fentanyl is certain. Healing is unpredictable. Fentanyl numbs. Healing awakens. But what you gain on the other side is not just the absence of addiction, it's the presence of life. Raw, unfiltered, beautifully flawed life. For those still caught in the cycle, it's not too late. It's never too late. The lie that fentanyl tells that this is all there is, that you'll never feel good without it, is just that, a lie. The truth is more daring. It says you can change. Your story can change. Even if you've relapsed, even if you've lost people, even if your past is littered with pain, you are not beyond hope. The key is not to fight the craving head-on, but to understand what it's trying to protect. Every craving is a message. It says, I'm overwhelmed. I'm scared. I need relief. When you learn to respond to those messages with care instead of chemicals, the craving begins to lose its power, and in its place, new pathways are formed. Healthier patterns, softer coping, real intimacy. That's where therapy comes in, and community, and support groups, and art, and music, and prayer, and nature, and everything that reminds us we are more than our pain. The work is holistic because the wound is holistic, and so is the healing. I've seen people find joy again. I've seen parents reunited with children. I've seen bodies restore themselves after years of abuse. I've seen eyes once glazed with fentanyl shine with tears of gratitude. These are not rare stories. They are everyday miracles. The world doesn't always tell them, but they happen. They matter. And still, we must be honest. The fentanyl crisis is not just a personal issue, it's systemic. It's fueled by poverty, by untreated trauma, by lack of access to care, by aggressive pharmaceutical marketing, by a society that too often punishes pain instead of treating it. If we want fewer people to turn to fentanyl, we need to build a world where people don't need to escape their lives to feel okay. That means mental health care that is compassionate and available. It means safe housing. It means addressing the roots of despair, not just the symptoms. Because the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection, it's wholeness. And that is something everyone deserves. So when someone asks, why does fentanyl feel so good? The answer is layered. It feels good because it works fast, powerfully, predictably. But it also feels good because people are hurting, because we are wired to seek relief, because we long for peace. But the good news is, peace doesn't have to come from a needle, or a patch, or a pill. It can come from within. It can come from healing, from facing your pain with courage, from allowing others to walk with you through the valley, from knowing you are not alone. Fentanyl may promise heaven and deliver hell, but the real path to peace is quieter, steadier, and more enduring. It's not a high, it's a homecoming. And no matter how far you've gone, that home is still there, waiting for you.